We're still getting used to Facebook Live, but thank you for joining us for our preliminary design reveal. We had a meeting last night at North High where we showed these, and now we're showing it here live on Facebook, and then we'll record it here so you can watch it anytime. Later on, we'll provide links to both the presentation and where in the video to jump to see if you want to just focus in on south or north. What you're going to see today are a lot of the floor plans and schematic designs that will eventually lead to the construction in each of these spaces. If you'll recall, the referendum itself was passed back in the spring, and since then we've been working with hundreds of individuals, staff members, community members, students, administration, and architects to work on what these designs are going to look at. But just to flash back to what we talked about last spring was that we had these common themes across the district that we were looking to solve through our master facility plan. Safety and security at both of our schools has rocketed up to the top of that list. Always was very important, but obviously a high focus on it right now. Accessibility, we had some areas across the building that people just couldn't get into if they weren't as able-bodied as some of us. Air conditioning, we took care of that this summer, all fixed and ready to go, and all our spaces are cooled and were for the start of the school year. Modern learning spaces across the school district, looking at revitalizing a lot of our spaces and making sure that they work for teaching and learning today. Learning commons at each school, which is that Main Street spot. You're going to see that today in actual drawings, where students can, during their lunch periods and study halls, get to everywhere in our schools. And then parity across campus, which includes at North High a new gymnasium and a revitalized cafeteria. And over at South High, additional outdoor PE space and an expanded auditorium. So I'm going to dive into these in a little bit here. First, an update as to everything that we've done to this point. As I mentioned, air conditioning and security upgrades were put into place over the summer. And then we've put some prototype classrooms in place to test out new types of furniture and flooring and lighting to make sure that when we go whole scale across the district with our changes, we know what kinds of furniture and wall coverings and those kinds of things really our students are drawn to and work well for them. And you can see all of these meetings and tours that we've had over the course of several months. And in the last few weeks, we've really made sure that all of our designs match with our budget, and they do. And we chose a construction manager to do the building as well. So with all of that said, those meetings that we've had, these design team meetings, as I said, over 300 people involved in very specific parts of the plan, digging in and giving us ideas of how to make these spaces work for our students. Those student groups then take a look at all the work that the adults do, and they validate it or tell us that we're not doing what we should do and go back to the drawing board and make changes based on that student feedback. So we work closely with our students in looking at these plans. We also have a community group that is constantly looking at the designs as they're released and making sure that we're staying true to the commitments that we made to the community throughout the referendum process along with the master facility plan. So let's dive into some of these designs. Some of the aspirations that the architects are following as they work on these designs are up here, but really we want facilities that are going to last well beyond the next 20 years. So, we want facilities that the community is going to be proud of 100 years from now, just like we are in parts of North High that were constructed 90 years ago. So we're going to start with South High. What you see up here is the areas of the external building that will be touched as a result of this plan. Areas where we're filling in courtyards, a new auditorium. We're adding on a new addition in the structure, and then we're putting in new bleachers and squad rooms out on the fields. This, if you take a look, is the current floor plan at South High. This is where the main entrance is, where visitors come. This is where we have student drop-off. Everywhere here that's peach is kind of, represents a hallway, a current hallway. And this gives you a feel for how South High is laid out. South High is very boxy. A lot of hard edges. It was built in the early 60s when there was a lot of expansion in the suburbs, and buildings like this went up really quick. And a lot of public buildings, hospitals, schools, and prisons were all built with the same design aspects in mind. We hear that a lot from our kids, that they're not really proud of their space at South High. So we're trying to really make this a space that our kids and our community are proud of. So here's what the floor plan will look like on the first floor once this is all done. What you'll see is now anywhere that has color on it, we're touching as a result of this plan. You'll see the main entry moves over here, and you'll see in another diagram our student entry moves, so they flip. What we add here is a secure vestibule where visitors check in and then come into the dining area and the learning commons. This is that Main Street area of the school that we talked about. This large learning commons becomes the space where our students are before school, after school. It is a spot where students are during lunch periods, and from there, in this space, they can access all of our administrators, counselors, social workers, psychologists, which are in the front of the building. They can get to the library, technology support, to the dining area, auditorium, the music wing and the practice rooms, up to the gym, over here into the arts wing, the new arts wing you're going to learn about today, activities, athletics, everything that a student might need throughout the day they can access through those commons. What you're going to notice throughout the building is a softening of all those hard lines at South. What's happening also outside the building is a refresh of the exterior at South, including new entranceways. There's a new turf field up here in the top corner, and the outside facades get refreshed as well, so that 1960s turquoise color around the outside of the buildings will go away, and the building will look more modern and more visually pleasing. What we want is, as you come on 63rd Street, you recognize that this is a high school and that our community is proud of the landmark that's here with South High. As we move up the second floor, you're going to see auditorium changes, and we're going to dive into those in a second. But what you're going to see on the second and third floor are these study lofts. One of the things that we're trying to add at both schools as we move into more small group learning and students having more time throughout the day because study halls are held in this space is giving them a variety of flexible spaces where they can work on their own in small groups and large groups to get their work done. So you'll see a couple of those study lofts here, and then you'll see the second floor of the new Fine Arts Edition that has some science space on that second floor. The third floor is highlighted by continual study lofts and some more auditorium space that we'll look at in a second. I want to focus in here first on the front part of the building that will be changed. As I mentioned, the security vestibule is here, new main entrance, and then a new student entrance. As we look, here's that secured vestibule with the security check-in, and now what we do is we pull back a whole bunch of different offices that are throughout the school, especially for counselors, psychologists, social workers, those kinds of folks, all get to come into this main front part of the building. So when students are up here in the commons, they can access all the resources that they need at any time throughout the day. This makes it real easy as parents come during the day. We move our health center to the front. A lot of times parents are dropping off medication or doctor's notes or those kinds of things. Security is right here to greet them as they arrive. And then once they're checked in, they can get into this office area. Also, if students are sick throughout the day and need to be picked up, we get the health center right by the front door to make that work a lot easier. You'll see the student entrance moves over here and lines up now with the hallway so that students enter and are quickly into the building after they get dropped off. I'm going to move over to this part of the building here where the auditorium is. In the new designs, the current auditorium is torn down, as well as the small auditorium, and a new one that meets our needs, our capacity needs, is built in its place. When you take a look at this, this is a zoomed in look at that auditorium. You would enter here from the Commons. The Commons becomes the reception area outside of the auditorium. You would come in at ground level and go down into this front lower seating called orchestra seating, and then up onto the stage. This is all a series of ramps so that students can get around quite easily. Once you come in and you're here on this main floor, you could turn around and walk up into this seating area, which would end on the second floor. You'll notice on the first floor here, we add some things behind the theater, including a scene shop, black box studio theater for smaller performances, dressing rooms, and we're adding an additional classroom here for theater arts. As a result of the size of the auditorium, it extends out to where the current west event entrance is. So we add a new secured vestibule up here. Each school at the end of this project will have 2 secured vestibules at each school. Moving back across the auditorium on the first floor, we have some restrooms in the front of the auditorium for both events that happen here and to service the Learning Commons on the other side. Moving up to the second floor, above some of this backstage area, we have some storage and we have a control room for this small theater. We have a control room for the main theater. This is where the seats on the first floor exit out into the hallway. And then moving up to the third floor, we enter from this hallway with a large waiting area out here at that third floor theater. You'd enter in through this set of doors that would stop any sound from coming from the hallway into the theater space. And then when you enter, there's a lower box area that you could head down and be seated in, or go up the steps into the upper box seating. All together, that auditorium then seats a little over 1,200 people, which is a comparable space to what we have at North High. Here's a cross-section view of that same space. So orchestra seating. Here's our first floor, second floor seating. The lower box, the upper box. You can see the cross-section of the restrooms on each floor with the control room out into the commons and how that fits into the rest of the space. It's a rather large vertical space to fit everything that we need in here. So I want you to see, this is a rendering of what the front of South High looks like, and as we drop the theater into the center of that space, it jumps up and fills up that vertical space, which will really allow us to dress up South High and make it look a lot different than it currently does. Now we're going to move around to the back half of the building into the new addition on the northeast corner of the building. This is the Fieldhouse where it's at now. Main entrance, you kind of walk through the commons and then you head into this fine arts wing. The first thing you hit as you come around that corner is our new Culinary Arts Labs. These are areas in our building that really need to be upgraded and are as a result of this. We're still working on where the furniture falls in any of these diagrams. Anywhere you see furniture is just for scale purposes only. We've really worked on figuring out where the walls fall, but the furniture inside is still being determined. And as we design each of these spaces and we get drawings for those, we'll do short presentations on each of these spaces, so if you're interested in those. But some of the key features in here are 2 Culinary Arts Labs, both that share a demonstration kitchen with sliding glass partitions and a counter that feed out into that commons area, so that at times throughout the year, before school, after school, students can put their learning and their work on display and use this as a servery area for those kitchens. What you'll see throughout the presentation are some images here on the side or scattered throughout. I'll focus in on a few throughout this. But what these are reference pictures that our architects and our teams and our staff and our students are using to pick out aspects of other spaces that they're drawn to, so that we can pick and choose pieces in those that we'd like to integrate into our spaces as we build them. As we move around that curve, we end up in the fine arts area. You'll see here's that Culinary Arts Lab, the edge of it. We head down into the commons, we hit a ceramics studio. Ceramics is a very popular program here in the district. You'll see we have some indoor ceramic space and some outdoor space to support that program. Then we have some other art programs, 2D drawing. We have a digital art lab, so computer resources there. And then another jewelry and 2D studio here at the end. We have a very popular jewelry program as well at both North and South High. So this new wing comes on out and gives us all of those resources. The culinary arts and all of these spaces are currently in the space where the commons will be. So we need to find somewhere else for them to end up in the building. And that's what this new space is for. Up above that on the second floor, we had a couple of science labs. Science labs are really a limiting factor in schools for how we build schedules. So anytime we can try to get more of those in a school, that really helps us out in meeting students' requests for the classes that they would like to take. So we're able to add a couple of science labs here at South with a couple of classrooms that could be used for a variety of things, with some more flexible space outside of those classrooms as well. This is back to the commons, and this gives you an idea of how many seats are available throughout this space. Remember, we have 3 lunch periods each day. Right now they're split where students have lunch for 20 minutes and then a study hall for 20 minutes somewhere else in the building. The building of the Learning Commons allows students to take that full 50 minutes because then there doesn't need to be a passing period. And then they can find a space in here to work. They can choose, are they starting their lunch hour in the cafeteria, or maybe are they starting that lunch hour visiting their counselor or in the library? Or do they need to go to a practice room for a little while? They get to pick and choose then how to use that time the way that they need to use it each day. And that allows us to be more responsive to student needs. In this space, you're going to see things like small conference rooms. There's a large stairway that leads up between the first floor and the second floor. And I'm going to show you some ideas of how we're thinking of designing that space as well. So here's some ideas of these collaboration stairs. Not just stairways going up, but spots where students can stop and work along the way in small groups, rooms underneath them, a variety of different ways that we could use stairs rather than just moving kids up and down between levels. As I said, at the top of each of those stairs are study lofts. Here's some inspirational images that we're drawing from as we try to design those spaces. But areas where you're looking out and others can look in, and you can meet in small or larger groups to get work done. Here's some more inspirational images for the Learning Commons. You'll see the idea of these curved glass walls with the commons underneath, some spaces throughout for those small meeting rooms, as I mentioned, and a variety of different finishes to modernize that space at South High. Now I'm going to give you a dollhouse view looking down and some things that we're thinking about. So here's collaboration stairs again, some more of those inspirational images that we're drawing from as we try to design these stairs and make them multifunctional spaces. Then the study lofts, some more kind of conceptual images of what we might be looking at for these study lofts that are on the second and third floors in the corner of the commons. And then the idea of accentuating curves at South High, getting rid of those hard corners and creating a little more flexible, inviting space as a result. Now we're going to move over to North High and look at some of their spaces. Once again, we're going to start with an outside view. You'll see here's the current North High. North High is really stacked on top of itself. It's a compact, dense building. And you'll see we're taking over a courtyard that's smaller than South High here, and a courtyard in the back that's kind of a loading dock right now and a dining area. New bleachers here, and a little bit of a new addition on the south east corner of the building. But this is a kind of a sore thumb of the building, doesn't match the rest of it. So we'll make sure that these finishes match the rest of North High. Here's the current floor plan. Once again, the peach color is the current hallways. To give you an orientation of what's going on here, here's the Main Street with the Main Street entrance. Here's Prince Street with the Prince Street event entrance. Here's Forest with the Forest Circle and the original entrance to the building. One of the things that we're trying to really focus on and highlight as a result of these designs is that inside of North High and built around it is the original 1928 Downers Grove High School. And as part of the construction and renovation here, we're going to open up and expose those original walls to bring that building back to life inside of the current building. This is just to highlight the areas that are being touched as a result. You'll notice that it's really the south half of the building that's really being changed as a result of this. These parts of the building were revitalized in the last building plan, so it's time to really focus in on this half. You'll notice the two main entrances that we're going to focus on, and then this part of the building we'll dive into in a second. Zooming in, just to give you an idea of the changes that will happen. Over here is the current white gym. This becomes the new building services and loading dock, which moves the loading dock out of the middle of the courtyard where our students are, off to the edge of the building so that truck traffic and delivery traffic is separate from our students. We have a radio TV area, some special education multi-needs improvements, kitchen serving area, new gymnasium that I mentioned. Then we move into the revitalized dining area and learning commons. Culinary Arts Lab is up here to revitalize that and bring that up to modern standards. Then College and Career Center, Student Activities Bookstore. You'll see the health office gets moved from this side of the building here, very similar to South High. We're trying to get our nurse's office close to that main entrance so that parents that are dropping things off can get there quickly, and students that aren't feeling well can easily be picked up and taken home. We have some light remodeling here in the counseling center, just to make sure that we can pull all of our psychologists, social workers, counselors into this area. Just as at South, the idea is that you can get to those resources easily from the Learning Commons, get into these waiting areas, and then get into the offices to see who you need to very quickly and easily. Then down in the southeast corner is all being remodeled in here, and we're going to really focus on that in a little bit. So that's kind of the feel of what's happening across the first floor. As we move up to the second floor, we have some classroom additions and remodeling. Above the kitchen and serving area, we have an athletic loft that can be used for a variety of purposes in athletics. Open down below to that gym, so this is a high volume space. And then we have the athletic loft here. This is really a gymnastics loft. Right now in the white gym currently, we have all of our gymnastics program, and that's going to be relocated into a combination of remodeled older space and brand new space to make sure that we're meeting those programmatic needs. Both schools, we're going to refresh the library, Learning Resource Center, a couple of classroom spaces here, and then you'll see this southeast corner again. All 3 stories of this southeast corner will be remodeled as a result of this. So you'll see that as we go up to the 3rd floor, that remodeling continues up in that corner, and then a variety of classroom spaces that get revitalized, ones that are currently serving as study halls that can become actual classrooms as study hall moves into the commons, and some other older spaces that need to be refreshed. So once again, back here on the main floor, We're going to start over here in this corner. What you're taking a look at here is what is the current white gym becoming building services with this loading dock that comes in near Prince Street. Right now, as I mentioned before, the truck traffic comes through here, through this courtyard. We're going to keep it off on the edge of the building with some brick facing to separate the building and the loading dock from our neighbors, along with a good deal of landscaping to revitalize this corner of the building. Then the Prince Street circle here, the courtyard becomes a courtyard just by itself with no traffic in it. The original 1938 gym entrance becomes the gym entrance once again for the new gymnasium that sits in this corner of the building. You'll see some other things that get enhanced as a result of this. The kitchen now sits right next to the receiving area. That's not how it currently works. The kitchen sits down the hall for the receiving area, and any deliveries have to be brought down the hall, and any trash needs to be rolled down the hall. So this allows us to get everything in and out of the kitchen through the back door. This is the serving area, which we'll focus in on a little bit, but you'll also notice in this space we're adding a brand new radio and TV studio. This is currently across the hall over here. We're going to move it over here to modernize that space, but we need this space here to become our multi-needs life skills. Students that have bathrooming needs or in wheelchairs or need a higher degree of care throughout the day, we're going to make sure we have the appropriate space for our students there. As we move across the building now, this is that gym, this is the serving area, and now you're into the learning commons and cafeteria. So students would come over here and serve. I'll dive into this area in a little bit, but here's the serving area for the food. And then they could choose anywhere in this space to go sit down, eat, work. The idea now is that they have that full class period to be in this space. And once again, from this space, they'll be able to access all of the resources they need. They'd be able to go up this set of stairs into the library while they're here, these two sets of stairs. Athletics is this direction, activities, college and career center, counseling, administration, dean, social workers. Everything hangs off of this learning commons and common space. One of the things that we definitely have to control for here at North High is there's actually 3 elevation changes just in this small space. This space here is 5 inches higher than this space, and this space is about 2.5 feet higher than this space, just how it was constructed over the years. What we have now is a series of ramps and slow level changes between these spaces that will allow our students that are in wheelchairs or our visitors that are in wheelchairs to easily move up through the ramps and easily traverse through this space without the need of assistance like we have now, where students actually have to board lifts to get between those spaces. Here's some of those inspirational models that we're drawing from as we try to design these spaces. You'll see a variety of finishes. You'll see some more modern finishes with some classic finishes inside of North High. It's the idea that we have this big plaza in the center of the school, and from there students can access all the resources that they need. Here's that dollhouse view for North High. Here's that commons that we're looking down on, Forest Circle, and this kind of gives you an idea of how that flow would work on the first floor. So here's that plaza once again, the idea of maybe living walls or a variety of finishes to make sure that that space comes back to life in that courtyard. Some more ideas that we're drawing from. Then as we look in the back half of that commons, here we have the College and Career Center, student activities, the Culinary Arts, and we're looking at ideas like this where we can take rooms and open them up to the commons where students can freely flow in and out of those spaces undeterred. Just invite them in into those spaces that currently you need passes and you need to be invited into. We just want them to go in when they need those resources. Culinary Arts Lab here at at North High, very similar to South in the idea of a lab space and a demonstration space with plenty of storage and workstations for them to work on the culinary arts. Also, throughout our buildings, we're replacing several elevators to make sure that students can get between all of our floors. At North High, this is a problem. We have at least one floor that students can't get to by elevator. So we're making sure that our elevators are easy to use and get students everywhere or visitors everywhere that they need to go. I want to focus in, here's some ideas of market space. This would be inspirational images for where that Culinary Arts Lab looks out onto the commons, the idea of movable windows or windows that fold up so that that kitchen area feeds out onto the commons. And now I want to go around the commons here, back to this market area. This is the market area, is the serving area here, the new serving area, separated from the 1928 structure. And then this hallway is almost like an alley. You can think of this space, this is an image of what that space might look like, where students would have some quick serving item options, some seating options in that space. You can see some more inspirational ideas here, just like downtown Downers Grove, where we've started doing this in some spaces between buildings, where you get some seating area and walking area and serving area. So once students are in this space, they'll be able to quickly get their food and then head out into that common space. Zooming back out, so we've talked about, here's where that alley was and the commons. Now we're going to kind of dive into this corner of the building down here. So this 3-story 1955 addition will be remodeled both inside and outside. This is kind of the sore thumb of North High. It's got some brick that's not in great shape, nor does it look good, so we need to do some stuff inside and outside. This is, the first floor becomes the fine arts studio area. You'll see, just like South High, we have similar programming, jewelry, ceramics, some photography, computer lab, 2D studio space, a kiln, and then we'd have an outdoor space here for fine arts. More of those inspirational images driving our design. This kind of fine arts commons area feeds right into the main commons over here. We're going to go up to the second floor. This is our Career Technical Ed, CTE studio. And you'll see some classroom space, engineering and fabrication space. We have a strong preschool program, child development. So you'll see an actual classroom space that can be used all day. And then the preschool area that's just used when we have the littles here with us. Then as we move up to the third floor, you'll see this becomes a remodeled science wing with 4 science labs. One is a brand new one, or we gain 1 science lab as a result of this, and several remodeled modern science labs. Once again, science labs drive our schedule, so the more flexible we can be in science, the more likely it is that students will get the courses in their schedule that they request. You'll see some outdoor instruction area that happens up on the 3rd floor. One of the things we're really hurting for at North High is outdoor learning space. It's a 22-acre campus. We would prefer to have about 80 acres for a modern high school. So trying to get creative in where we can access space at North High. And you'll see some instructional spots out in some larger hallways. This loft looks down on the commons with a couple of small meeting rooms. The idea is that you could do small group, or you could pull out activities into this space. And if you were running carts or building towers or those kinds of things, you could get out in some space and do that. All right, so that's the general overview of where the walls will fall. Over the next year, we'll be diving into what actually the spaces inside those walls look like, and we'll be sharing those as they get designed and come online. the easiest way for you to stay informed of what's going on with the master facility plan is to go to csd99.org/MFP and to subscribe. Click here to subscribe to Facility Friday. Every Friday, we send out a quick newsletter that has images, videos, it has calendars, it tells you everything that we're doing around the master facility plan, what we're doing now, and what comes next. If you click the link underneath it, you can see our past 8 or so issues of that and go through everything that we've been doing since the start of the year. Timelines for you is what I'm going to end with. Last night we had the community open house where we went through these same slides and presentation. Today you're here tuning into this, whether it's live or later on. And then in the fall we'll move into planning and zoning with the village. After the new year, we'll get out bidding and we'll have a staggered bid release process over the next year, depending on where the projects fall, next summer or the years after. But building will commence in the spring of 2019 and will continue through the fall of 2021 when all of the projects will be done. So that's the quick overview of the schematics and designs. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you go to our website, sign up for those Facility Fridays, and stay informed of everything that's going on. At this point, I think we're going to turn it over for questions if there are any. We don't have anybody that made it all the way to the end.
We've had a few.
Dropping in throughout.
Dropping in, so no questions, but tell
all right.
We'll respond.
Yeah, please email me or go on to the facility page and you can submit questions and let us know what concerns you have, and we're happy to address those and post those. So thanks for tuning in, and hopefully you'll come back the next time.
Maybe you can talk about student impact, how students will be impacted.
Oh, yes.
So because it's not finished here, there's a delay.
Sure. So the way that students will be impacted is over the next 3 years. Construction will be going on while students are here, but we're working with a builder that's done this before several times. And they're used to doing construction around students and making sure that we don't impact learning as it goes on. However, we do have a large auditorium that will be offline for about a year at South High, and we have a gym that'll be offline for about a year at North High. So we're looking at alternative spaces where we can put that programming off-site while that construction goes on. But otherwise, we're dedicated to maintaining the instructional environment for students over the next 3 years and making sure that we move things in such a way that we have no temporary classrooms outside of our walls. We want to make sure that once students are in our buildings and they're safe and secure, that they're there for the day. So we're working on this very creatively to make sure that we're not putting students in temporary structures, and we're also not then spending money on temporary structures. We're spending as much on permanent structures as we possibly can. So working really close with those builders to make sure that instruction is not interrupted throughout the process. All right, that's all I've got for you. Thanks again for tuning in.